that moment in D&D when you look at the dungeon master, see that nervous little twitch in their eye, and realize you're about to do something unbelievably dumb? Well, that was us. Freshly leveled, cocky, and convinced we were invincible. We thought we could handle anything. And then we met Venomfang, a green dragon, the kind of monster that should have wiped the floor with us, and probably would have, if we didn't have one thing on our side: absolute reckless stupidity. So grab your dice, because it's time I tell you the story of how we actually killed a dragon, despite knowing we really, really shouldn't have. It all started on our senior trip. Yes, I know, that was a long time ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. A beach house getaway with sand, sun, and absolutely zero responsible decisions. During the day, it was all swimming and boardwalks, but at night, D&D. One of the guys we played with, let's call him Chuckles for no reason at all, had volunteered to run Lost Mines of Phandelver. He was still relatively new to DMing, having only run a few chaotic one-shots before this, while I had been the usual game master for our long-running Curse of Strahd campaign. But since not everyone on this trip was in that campaign, we needed something fresh. And Chuckles was up for the challenge. Most of us had pre-prepared characters ready to go because, let's face it, what self-respecting D&D nerd doesn't have ample characters built at all times? This rang true for all of us except for one last-minute addition: Brunior. If that name sounds familiar, it's because Brunior is literally the example dwarf from the Player's Handbook tutorial on how to make a character. Page 11. The guy had literally never played D&D before, so we figured, what better could we do than to give him the most basic, easy thing that we could? Dwarf fighter, cool, done. Simple, right? Little did we know, Brunior was about to become an absolute legend. We speedran through the storyline of Phandelver like maniacs, skipping every side quest and derailing Chuckles' carefully planning in record time. We actually ended up killing the main boss so fast and in the least respectful way possible that it made Chuckles stop the session just to process what had happened. But that's a story for another day. Regardless, then came the harsh realization. We were horribly underleveled. He had a whole next part of the story waiting for us, but there was no way that we could keep up with what he had planned. Keep in mind, this was before we discovered the joys of milestone leveling. So there we were, grinding XP like lunatics, backtracking to clean up side quests just to survive what came next. And that's how we stumbled into the ruined tower of Thundertree and met Venomfang, the green dragon who was absolutely not supposed to die that night. Ah, Venomfang. Chuckles described it with way too much glee for someone who wasn't personally getting eaten. This massive, venom-dripping green terror lounging in the ruins of a shattered tower, wings spread wide like it had just claimed a prime piece of real estate. And naturally, guarding this monster? Dragon cultists. Because of course there were cultists. These weren't just your average run-of-the-mill cultists with vague, ooh, dark power vibes. No. These people were fully committed to the dragons are awesome, let's die for one life philosophy. They greeted us with creepy enthusiasm, practically giddy about Venomfang. Chuckles did this unsettling voice for the cult leader, who basically told us, "Praise be to the mighty Venomfang, destroyer of worlds, yada yada, he'll be right with you to eat your faces." Then, the big guy actually showed up. Venomfang crashed onto the scene with a roar that shook the rubble, toxic mist hurling from its jaws. Cult robes whipped around in the wind as Chuckles described every claw scrape and venom-dripping, gory, loving detail. The cult leader's eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. And then Venomfang ate him. No ceremony, no monologue, just claws through the dude's chest, followed by a swift gulp. The rest of the cultists immediately realized that this was not, in fact, the divine blessing they'd signed up for. Screaming, running, getting tail slammed into walls, Venomfang tore through them like appetizers. One guy actually tried to pray harder as he got munched. We stood there, slack-jawed, watching a room full of people get Thanos snapped by a dragon that hadn't even broken a sweat. Then Chuckles leaned forward, eyes gleaming behind his DM screen. "Venomfang turns to you now. What do you do?" We probably should have run, but we were a fresh level 5 party with more guts than brains and way too much confidence for our own good. So instead, we did what any self-respecting group of adventurers would do. we stayed to fight the dragon. You guys can try to fight it, Chuckles said, voice wavering just enough to remind us this was a terrible idea. But it's deadly. Deadly, right. Maybe to a normal party? But remember, we were 4 freshly leveled up Chaos Gremlins on a mission to prove ourselves. Plus, Brunior, the literal tutorial character, had a shiny new feat. Sentinel. None of us had realized it yet, but that little detail was about to be very important. The fight kicked off with Venomfang roaring and swiping its claws like it was trying to swat a fly. Chuckles probably expected us to scatter or run screaming. Nope. Like the hero my character was, I hid in a building, just out of his reach. Then I popped Call Lightning. Venomfang had previously torn the roof off the tower, so the open sky was my playground. Every turn, I just leaned slightly out to drop a bolt of divine lightning right on its scaly head before ducking back into cover like the shameless, smart player I was. But as the dragon reeled from the blast, something hit me. This was a dragon! A green dragon! And it was still standing! That realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The beast was way out of our league. Was I really going to stand here and keep throwing spells at it? Was this even worth it? My character was safe, but the others were out there too close to the danger. For a moment, I considered running. It would be the smart move, right? Just bail and live to fight another day. But before I could act on the thought, I saw Brunior. Brunior, the literal tutorial character, plant his feet, locking eyes with Venomfang. And then, Brunior, completely unfazed by the looming dragon, simply said, no. He planted himself firmly in the dragon's path, his new feet letting him strike out the moment Venomfang tried to move. With a single, powerful motion, he grabbed the dragon's tail and yanked it down to the ground, forcing the massive creature to land with an earth-shaking crash. The dragon, caught off guard, found itself grounded before it could even react. And the rest of us, well, we were too stunned to do anything but watch. Brunio's move was like a spark that lit a fire under us. Suddenly, the fear that had paralyzed us melted away. If he could stand his ground against a dragon, we'd at least try to help. My hesitation turned to focus, and I darted back out of cover, ready to keep the lightning coming. The ranger, who'd been keeping his distance, saw an opening and took his shot, his arrows finding their mark as the dragon struggled to regain its footing. Even the bard, always the opportunist, took up his instrument, playing a quick tune to boost Brunior's resolve. It was like the world slowed down for a moment, and we all fell into rhythm with one another. Each strike we landed, each spell cast, felt like we were one step closer to defying the odds. We weren't just fighting to survive anymore. We were fighting to win. What happened next could only be described as utter chaos. Venomfang, once an unstoppable force of nature, was now being treated like a rag doll. Each time the dragon tried to rise, it was struck by a bolt of lightning or sent crashing back down by Brunio's relentless grip, forming deep impressions in the sand like a giant, scaly punching bag. The creature's wings flailed in the air, trying desperately to get airborne again, only to be dragged right back to the ground with a sickening thud. It was like watching the most ridiculous fight scene from some slapstick comedy, except instead of a hapless henchman, it was a dragon that was getting absolutely destroyed. What should have been our annihilation had turned into a surreal spectacle, with Venomfang getting pummeled by everything we could throw at it. And with every swing, our hope grew just a little more, while the dragon's resolve crumbled. By the time Chuckles finally said, it's dead, none of us could believe it. We had just killed a dragon that was supposed to stomp us into the ground and maybe fly away halfway through, as we were later informed. But no, instead we were standing there, drenched in dragon blood, with 3,900 experiments and plenty of dragon scales to show for it. Oh, and a story that would become part of D&D Legend. Well, our version of Legend anyway. Now, here's the thing. If Brunior hadn't been there, I'm pretty sure we would have all done the sensible thing. You know, the one where we take one look at the dragon and decide, yeah, we're not doing this today, and just run off like good little players. It wasn't exactly smart to face off against a dragon as level 5s, but we all knew better. That is, until Brunior, fresh to the game and blissfully unaware of what was actually about to happen, just charged in like it was no big deal. Watching him rush headfirst into the fight was like someone threw a brick through the window of our careful, strategic D&D thinking. He didn't know better, and you know what? Maybe that was exactly what we needed. Seeing the game through his eyes, without all the layers of experience and expectation we built up over the years, reminded us of something simple. Sometimes you just do the stupid thing because it's fun. And we followed along because at that moment, why the hell not? Maybe, just maybe, if we'd been a little more sensible, we would have turned tail and bolted, scurrying away like sensible adventurers who knew their limits. But you know what? I'm so glad we didn't. That night, we didn't just kill a dragon. We did the impossible. We threw caution to the wind, acted on pure gut instinct, and created a memory that would live on in our group for years to come. That moment, when the dragon fell and we realized what we'd just done, was one of those rare D&D experiences that you can never plan for, but when it happens, it feels like the magic in the games. So with that in mind, here's my challenge to you. Do the stupid thing. Throw logic out the window. Ignore your carefully laid out plans and your obsessive knowledge of D&D stat blocks. Don't stop yourself because you think you'll regret it. Hell, you probably will. But who cares? Because in that moment of pure chaos, you'll find something you can't get anywhere else. A story that goes beyond the numbers on the paper. The kind of story you'll tell over and over again, laughing about how you should have died, but somehow you didn't. And in the end, that's what makes it worth it. So go ahead. Be Brunior. I dare you.